Kicking us off actually is the president of Seattle Times, Alan Fisco, and he's going to talk to us about how they're full steam ahead right now. And I'd like to, at this point, introduce Alan. Take it away.
Well, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. We appreciate it and share a little bit about what's going on at the Seattle Times and the significant journey that we've had over the last 8 or 9 years, called really rolling up to a very successful 2020, which I'll get into in just a second. So as I kind of look back at our digital subscription and our audience revenue strategy and roadmap, there are really 4 phases that we have been through. And I wish I could say that we had insights or the brains to identify these in advance. We really didn't. But these were the result of firefighting and knowing what we needed to do next. So the first the first phase was strategy, obviously. The second phase was tools and technology. When we launched, we had a terrible tech stack. Third phase, complete data overhaul. And then phase 4, it's really not phase 4. It's really started on day 1, but it's making sure that you've got the right skills and roles and champions in place in moving forward. So as far as resetting the strategy, it was 2012, and we took a look at kind of what was going on in the state of the industry and with our revenue models. And at that point in time, our thinking was at the publisher level and board level was that the issues were cyclical in advertising, and then when we recovered from the Great Recession, digital advertising will offset advertising losses. And as we started to peel the onion back, we were already dealing with declining rates, an explosion of inventory, the shift mobile to rates even more, and that we really needed to change our strategy and move away from one that was an audience-dominated revenue. And we decided to make that pivot to audience revenue strategy and model. And with that, we decided we needed to get a paywall in place. When we did this, we had 2 major organizational Achilles heels that we had to deal with. And this is one of the first cultural issues. We had a culture, everything had to be perfect. And it was really driven by the newsroom where you can't, misspell people's names. You got to have the facts right. That permeated the entire organization. We saw ourselves as being collaborative as an organization, but yet we had very well-established and well-defended silos. So the result was things took forever to get done. And as Tony said, I think on Thursday, there was a lot of talk, but not a whole lot of action, and we needed to get moving on this. So we developed a quick hit task team. Sorry, the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. And launched the efforts to get a paywall installed and up, and we did in 2013. We had some very initial success. But we quickly lost momentum. And why is that? Is because our technology was terrible, both for customers as well as for our employees. It was optimized for print, not digital, and certainly had little to no e-commerce capability. And really what we learned was that our tech resources didn't match our strategy. So I'm not going to go into the details of this. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but we launched our new audience management platform. It took us almost 2 years. And I won't go into the details, but post-launch, it was a 24-step process to subscribe, which is embarrassing to even say right now. And now you can do in as little as 2 steps. One of the other cultural issues that we were dealing with was serious pushback from the newsroom. They were not on board initially with this. And one of the reasons we quickly learned was that we had 2 content management systems, one for print and one for digital. So all the things that we were asking the newsroom to do in the digital front just created that much more work for them and that much more anxiety and animosity, and really caused some problems for us. And so we finally got a new content management system installed in 2017. To make matters worse, we were flying blind. We were making data-driven decisions, and most of them were done by, and I saw it on the anyway, I'll move on. It was really decisions were made by circulation gut, by the loudest person in the room, the most senior person in the room. And imagine trying to implement these changes and changing the culture when people didn't even know what was working or what was working or what wasn't working. And it made it virtually impossible for any kind of accountability. So in broadening collaboration across departments, we need a deeper analytics in the newsroom. And they said they were completely overwhelmed by data and they had very little information. The most important outcome of this analytics hub that we put in was we were finally able to begin creating a common understanding, a shared language around analytics, and trust among the teams, all of which were amazingly critical in unifying the culture and trying to move forward. So now we can slice and dice content in many ways. We can do it by section. We can do it by author. So here's another major cultural change for us. Traditionally, our newsroom had really poorly defined and typically unmeasurable performance expectations. Pretty much how many awards do you win? And this was a really new thing for them. All of a sudden, we were talking about how many subscriptions did you help contribute to? And the key here we rolled this out is that we didn't want to make this a club to beat people over the head with. Our approach was to provide a non-threatening tool that would help us understand what was working and building on those successes and essentially trying to raise the bar for everyone rather than use it as a club. And we can also now measure the impacts by article. And one of the things that we did and was the key to the success of this analytics hub is a digital subscription influence score. So we have 3 different scores and measurements. Did a reader read a piece of content and subscribe within 30 days? Did a reader read a piece of content and subscribe within 7 days? And at the highest level of achievement, did they go from that particular story directly to subscribe? So this is the first time now that readers and editors could work together with a regular cadence to analyze the factors that contributed to success. Was it topic? Was it headline? Was it writing style? Was it time of day? And it really helped us identify where to reallocate our resources as well. The bottom line is you just can't write stuff anymore. You've got to really be productive in doing so. A quick, and I call this phase 4, but really this started, as I said, on day 1. A little bit about our structure. We've got a small team that we lean on heavily for this work. They're accountable for strategy, volume growth, and revenue goals. That team consists of a senior product manager who focuses on optimizing technology, senior director of audience revenue, Curtis, who many of you know, who oversees our print and digital pricing strategies, our audience health and business intelligence team, SVP marketing, who works on communications both internally and externally. And we created an assistant managing editor role last year in the newsroom specifically to work as part of this team. One of the other things we did that's been really successful is what we call the morning team. So we have a group of 4, a copy editor, a metro editor, a reporter, and a producer who come in early in the morning, focus on wire stories, what's moving, focus on what's going on social media, what's trending, what's not, publishing a new piece of content for our morning news brief, which is by far and away our most popular newsletter, as well as then publishing content and news alerts. This has been so successful that we're now hiring 3 more positions to do a midday team so we can keep that momentum now into the midday and into the evening so we can keep refreshing the website to keep getting people back on a multiple time a day basis. So how this all kind of rolls up organizationally is we've got daily news meetings where our audience team participates. Once a week, we meet on Wednesdays with the newsroom specifically to go over the subscription progress, and that includes me and a host of others, probably 30 people on the call. Weekly meetings, monthly cross-functional reviews of analytics between the executive leaderships and key leaders within the newsroom, special sessions for our board of directors. We've really tried to push this throughout the organization. How it all wrapped up in 2020, a very successful year. And I know many of us had very successful years. We finished the year with 73,000 digital subscribers. We grew our total subscriber base by almost 11%. Our digital subscription revenue exceeded the prior year by $3.3 million. And had we not had that digital subscription revenue model in place, it would have been a really ugly year for us with many layoffs, which fortunately we avoided. So this is our digital subscription growth history. As you can see, we started 2020 with about 47,000 digital subscribers. And today we're up to almost 75,000. So we grew almost 28,000 in a year. And digital subscription churn, I'm pleased to say, has not increased. So this graph is a look at our digital ad revenue compared to our digital subscription revenue. The ad revenue is in the orange and digital subscription revenue is blue. As I said, last year was the first year where we exceeded digital subscription revenue, exceeded digital ad revenue, not by much, by about $5,000. And again, part of that is obviously the great success we had on the digital advert audience front, but also the declines tied to the pandemic and advertising. So if you look at the history of our revenue split between advertising and circulation, in 2014, we crossed over where audience revenue exceeded ad revenue for the first time. We finished 2020 with audience revenue representing 70% of our total, and that trend has continued through Q1 of this year. So what's next? I talked about the midday initiative. We're doing a lot of homepage experimentation. We still find that a very valuable tool. We're really focusing on rate growth this time around, or this year. And not that we're not going to be focused on growing the total number, but we really got to raise rates. Our base rate is $3.99, and it's been that way since we launched. We've got 3 price tests in the water now, one at $4.99, $5.99, and 99 cents a day. And the latter is outperforming the first 2. So we're planning to move more people through that increase in pipeline. So I had a lot to cover here in just a few minutes. I can tell you that it's been a fun 10 years. It's been a difficult 10 years or 9 years, probably one of the most rewarding and challenging that I've dealt with in my long career there. You know, one of the last week's speakers said you really have to make this part of your DNA, your organizational DNA. And that is exactly what we find. You can't, this is not just a project. This is an ongoing cultural evolution and revolution. So we'll focus on analytics adoption and use. We need to be smarter with our internal resources. We need to continually improve the site, and we need to continue to grow our digital skills on all fronts, as we have been trying to for the last 8 years.
Thank you, Alan, for that. And what we really appreciate is just you presenting and being in your role, because it's really helpful to be in your shoes. And thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing how you've had some real challenges and you've had some tremendous success lately to be able to show for your 4-point strategy. So I want to turn it over now as you get your questions ready for Alan, and also going into Debbie's presentation, to Debby Krenek, who is a publisher of Newsday, which serves the Long Island area and rest of New York. And they've always been on the cusp of innovative solutions. She's going to specifically focus on some of the specialty content that they've developed, which has been a bright spot in their subscriptions and future. So Debby, take it away.
Thank you so much, Nikki. And thank you to Matt and all of our friends at MATHER. I am really so happy to be here to talk to you all today about growing digital subscriptions, because that has been our #1 focus at Newsday for several years now. I think this has been a great conference so far, and I've learned so much from every single one of you. It's gratifying to see that we've been following a lot of the playbooks that I've heard from many of you. Being agile, changing the culture, getting things done at the speed of light, all sound very familiar to us at Newsday. And I have to give a shout out to Alan, whose insights have helped us over these past years. I particularly like what several of the speakers said the other day. To get ahead, you have to take some big bets. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. How Newsday has fundamentally changed our thinking and made 5 paradigm shifts that we strongly believe will help us continue to grow at lightning speed and crash through what we thought was the ceiling for us on digital subscriptions. So I'm going to take you through each, but first, let's start with a little context. The Newsday brand is a Long Island institution. Long Island is located off New York City in New York, and it's home to about 3 million people. 1 million households that reflect all demographics and diversity. Newsday reaches fully half of all of the adults on Long Island. Some other things for you to know, we're 80 years young and we are independently owned as of 4 years ago. We have nearly 200,000 total subscribers and more than 1 million weekly unique visitors to our website. Our digital subscription effort did not begin in earnest until January 2019, because we were previously owned by a cable company on Long Island for many years, and our digital products were free to all cable subscribers, and that covered about 85% of all Long Islanders. So, okay, let's, here we go, shift to number one, branding. We spent a lot of time looking at the qualities of some of the most beloved brands like Nike, Airbnb. Then we studied some brands that went from mundane to love, like Domino's and JetBlue. We wanted to understand the lessons from all of those that we could apply to Newsday. One of the things we really try to do is look outside of the industry and see what best practices are and what are making people successful. So here's a look at what we found. We found that it was imperative to change the perception of Newsday. When asked about Newsday in focus groups, Long Islanders resoundingly told us it's a newspaper, even though we've had a popular website and apps and done video for years. They also told us that they'd never pay for news. So we knew that we had to do something game-changing. If you looked at all the beloved brands, it's really not so much about their products. They've really created success around culture. So we realized that we had to go from being a newspaper product to a brand embedded in the culture of Long Island in many different ways. What does that mean exactly? It means using cultural awareness to be more relevant and engage with consumers. The thing is that tapping into culture isn't easy. You have to connect with people on a fundamental level, understand what motivates them and what they're most concerned with. When done successfully, users do become advocates and more are likely to recommend Newsday to others. So we actually did several things. One is, you might be familiar with Faces of New York. We launched something very similar called Faces of Long Island. And it basically let people across Long Island tell their stories, so people could understand where they're coming from, what they're facing, what the issues are on Long Island. It's actually been incredibly successful and it grew really rapidly. We only launched it in December of 2020. We also launched brand ambassadors, which are basically people that go out and they read Newsday and they tell others about Newsday, friends, family, people across Long Island. It's also a very new program and we're already seeing a lot of success with that as well. And we also launched virtual events, our Newsday Live program. I'm going to talk a little bit about that further on down the slide. But if you take a look at what the results were from our branding efforts so far, we elevated our net promoter score. So Newsday was sort of always in the negative territory. And net promoter score, if you didn't know, is the likelihood for a consumer to recommend the Newsday brand. So we went from a -7 to a +10. And that means that your audience is more loyal than not. Anything above 50 is excellent. Anything above 70 is world class. Anything above 0 is good. So we felt good about that. And one of the things that I do want to talk to you about a little bit later on in the presentation is how our virtual events have helped us dip into this world-class territory. Our next shift was from legacy to diversity. It was really important for us to look across Long Island and look at the audience. So Long Island is rapidly changing and Newsday needed to change with it. It was imperative that we expand and grow our audience to be younger and more diverse. And we're doing this with grassroots efforts among a lot of the target audiences, as well as reporting on issues that shine the spotlight on diversity, equity, inclusion on Long Island. We spent a lot of time identifying the audiences that we weren't reaching, and we put a plan in place to meet face-to-face with the influencers in these different groups, like the American Indians and Latina teachers and minority millennials. We try to do one of these a month, and I, along with all the other executives, attend each one. When the pandemic hit, these became Zooms. Often they were really painful and brutally honest, but they really helped us all understand the issues of the different communities and how they perceive Newsday and what we needed to do in order to change and reach them. So one quick example is we met first with the minority millennials in late 2019 before the pandemic. Their criticism was really harsh. They didn't see people like themselves in our coverage. They saw unconscious bias as well. And if you fast forward to our next session that we had with them in fall of 2020, it was just the reverse. They actually praised us for the fairness of the coverage of the George Floyd protest. And they noticed that we had taken deep dives into issues that affected their lives on Long Island. And a larger proportion of them had become subscribers than when we spoke to them before. So the net result is that when we look at audience now, again, it's early, but we are seeing growth in diverse attendees in both events and subscriptions. One thing that's interesting is that more than 60% of our new digital subs have never been Newsday subscriber before. So we are really excited about that. The third paradigm shift is a platform expansion. I know that many of you are probably scratching your heads on this one. Didn't we chase video as a shiny object years ago? And for most, didn't that fail? The answer is likely yes, and it kind of was for us as well. But we've been doing video for more than 10 years, and we never come close enough selling advertising to pay for that. But that is where the shift lies. So we actually no longer look at video through an advertising lens. And we also know that our audiences want more immersive storytelling on our digital platforms. So we are consciously moving from digital to digital plus video. We know that video is a destination for younger demos, as well as social, and that's how they get their news. We have also found that it's a destination for former print subscribers, and we see that digital consumption is impacting our customer lifetime value for those. We launched our TV studio late last year, and we went live with election coverage, updating all night back in November. But what we're doing is different than regular TV. The idea is to really take the depth of our reporting and enhance it in video. And our reporters have become comfortable telling their stories on video as they are writing it. Not all of them, but many of them now. Newsday Live also is another key component of this strategy. So it was launched right after the pandemic hit. We really saw a need there. Long Island businesses were really craving information about the SBA loans and about what to do about their business. Many of them were shutting down. So we set up these virtual events, and we brought the experts to them where they could ask personal questions. Then we expanded that to health and schools, as we also saw the need there. And these became sort of community events for people. We added music and authors, and it was a place where people could convene. It answered their questions. That was really important. We said their names, we said their questions. It gave them peace of mind. The response was really overwhelming. I actually got many letters from people saying, I've never been a subscriber before, but I subscribed today after watching your event. So here are the results. The response to digital plus video has been impressive. Again, early, but impressive. We're seeing 60% higher conversion rates for articles with video. And when talking to focus groups about this, they tell us that they come for the article, but the video enhances their experience. And additionally, we're seeing a 75% higher conversion when the video is played, as it causes more engagement and also contributes to that lift. Again, this is in its infancy, but we're very excited about these early results. Our Newsday Live division has really enjoyed the success with both B2B and B2C virtual events and shows. We've had over 250,000 event attendees. We did 155 events, And these are averaging a 67 NPS. Again, when 70 is considered world-class. We've had many of these, particularly some of the business ones, some of the education ones, and some of the health ones come in at 80 and 90, which really showed that people really, really needed this help and really appreciated it. We're also now working on expanding into other things like esports and home buying on Long Island and different categories like that. Our next paradigm shift was going from the funnel to cyclone. So it's all about creating engagement and sales. So a lot of you have talked about the funnel, push them in at the top, move them down from anonymous to somewhat engaged to becoming loyal subscribers. But with a funnel, the conversion takes place at the bottom and it takes time. And you may never build enough engagement to get them there. Our strategy has moved from funnel to what we're calling cyclone. It's rather than pushing them down, we're nudging them in from all sides of engagement and all levels of engagement. And this new approach is helping us convert less engaged consumers and convert people faster. Part of this is not new in the industry, but we have really tried to optimize this on all levels. Our $1 for 5 months offer is a good example of getting consumers with long introductory offers. And it also, on the experience level from social to headline grazers, we're pushing them all in. So the result is converting them faster. And in the next section, I'm going to talk about, how it's easier than trying to, do the long sell. Even more exciting is our conversion rate. So it's over 1,000 starts per million non-sub-unique visitors. That's up from 500 just 16 weeks ago. And in a few slides, I'll talk about digital subscription growth, which is already well ahead of our 2021 goal. So our fifth paradigm shift is all about engaging them after they subscribe. We have spent a lot of time trying to entice people to subscribe to Newsday, telling them what they'll get before they pull out their credit card. But what we've learned is something really important, that it's easier to get them to understand our portfolio and value after they subscribe. So first, we really sell the articles by making them as engaging as possible. And the subscribe mode is simple. It's not a big sell. We just want to underpromise and then over-deliver. Once they've converted, we onboard them with all of our most popular items. That would be app downloads, content interest, newsletters, e-edition, and our opt-in products. So you can see that step-by-step process in the phone here. And the results, our digital sub growth rate has been fast and furious, and we've been thrilled. We hit more than 40,000 subscribers in the first couple of years. Yeah. We actually are at 41,000. We're knocking on the door of 42,000. So, but the thing that's really interesting is that our starts this year are 15% higher versus last year when we were in the height of the coronavirus bump. So quickly, in summary, we continue to shift and grow and think differently. We realize we have to do this if we want to shatter our industry benchmark ceiling on digital subs, which we definitely want to do. And in closing, I just quickly wanted to say, if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or to Patrick Tornabene, who heads up our consumer revenue and strategy team and has worked very closely with Mather on this. We can give you more detail on our numbers and all of those kind of things. Thanks again, Nikki, Matt, and everyone for hearing me out.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate the presentation and for being so thorough. This was very, very helpful, and to look at the paradigm shifts really right next to the results that you saw from each of them. And maybe just a question for each of you, and we can start with Alan and then kind of move to you, Debbie. But you guys both covered so much and you had a multi-part plan. If there are members of our audience who are hearing this and thinking, wow, I am really behind. We're not taking every piece of content and putting it through 3 different scores, or we're not yet to the stage where we are engaging our millennials the way that Newsday is. What area or what tactic would you actually recommend in terms of advice for telling them where to focus first?
That's a loaded question there. So as I look back at our journey, it was rocky to say the least. I mean, clearly the tech stack has to be good, but for us, the real game changer was the analytics hubs, so that people really knew now exactly how that work was impacting our digital subscription goals. And that was a game changer for us. So I would say, make sure that you've got a strong analytics background in there, and then B, you're really doing it cross-departmentally. It's not just a newsroom initiative. It's not just an audience development initiative.
Yeah, I would agree with what Alan is saying. I think, for us, it was really focusing on, how do we drive, we're trying to drive at least 1,200 starts a week or subscriptions a week. So that's key. And the cross-functional teams is really helping with that. So it's bringing in somebody from, newsroom and audience and marketing, and, just give them the goal and let them run with it. I think at Insider, that was one of the things that they said. But I think the thing of it is that you can't, it's hard to just do one thing, right? Because at the same time, we were focusing on paywall. We're doing a lot of things in the newsroom with metrics and really getting in deep with the reporter. So I think it has to be multi-pronged, but those are a couple of the big ones, definitely.
Okay, very helpful. And as you mentioned, you have to do multiple things at one time almost. You almost can't focus on one. And one of the questions that came in that I think is helpful is, once you have those analytics in place and once you kind of have the tech stack figured out, the question is whether or not you have a playbook for how you raise subscription prices. I know that's a really popular topic we've seen a lot of today, and different approaches. So just curious to each of you how you're looking at the price raise part of this strategy.
We are, as I said, we're doing 3 different price tests thanks to MATHER and the wonderful tools that they give us to really help us understand what's going to move the needle the most. One of the industry challenges that I've seen over the past few years with digital subscription pricing is it's too low across the board. I feel like it was almost replaying back in the days when we would chase print circulation numbers by penny sales and low subscription rates before we realized people were willing to pay much more for print, and they're willing to do so on digital. So that's really our focus here. We got to drive more rate out of the loyal digital subscribers that we have.
Yeah, again, I would agree with that. I would say that so we are really pushing the dollar for 5 months, which is not a new concept. Boston has used it and other places have used it. We're being, really keenly focused on pushing, as I said about the cyclone, people hitting that, in all different areas. So really getting them in. And then, what we've done some testing, and we realized that, so the roll to originally was like $3.49, and we're having success with roll to now at $6.99. Even more so than at $3.49. So we're doing more testing. We're getting ready to test roll to, I think, at 3 months and 4 months. So, we'll report on those results.
Okay. Debbie, question specifically for you around your net promoter score. So kudos for looking at that, and even more impressive, moving it from the negative to the positive 10. The question around the net promoter score specifically is, did you actually see a correlation between that improving to increased revenues?
I would have to say yes, because, it really has been over the last year. that we have added so many subscribers. And we heard over and over again that, you know, these things that we're doing, and it's not, you know, it's not just one single thing. So the virtual events, I think, were a big driver, but I think also the different types of coverage that we were doing. So yes, I see that as adding to our overall revenue.
Okay, great. And Alan, just a final question for you. One of the questions that came in is around how you're going to focus specifically on getting younger audiences. Is it about digital? Is it about live streaming, et cetera? Just curious if you can tell us how you guys are focusing on getting that younger reader base.
Yeah, it's digital. And for us, you know, if we look at our Scarborough data, our largest audience segment is millennials, which is kind of counterintuitive based on what we see in the industry. And certainly attention toward Sunday print among that younger audience. So I think ultimately we're leading toward a 1 or 2 day print model plus digital. One of the areas that I'm fearful that we're kind of missing the boat on is podcasts. You know, I have sons who are in their late 20s, and they're all into podcasts. And we tried it and failed, and we need to try it again. But we need to figure out how to crack that nut, or I'm afraid we're going to lose that audience altogether.
Really important. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you both, Debbie and Alan, for sharing with us. Again, very thorough presentations. Really nice to see you being vulnerable, sharing your growth opportunities, and then the fantastic results you've had to date. So I appreciate you both contributing to our 3rd day here at the symposium.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.